So today's daf is Kuf Tedvav 115 in Pesahim, but we're going to actually start on Kuf Yud Daled in the Mishnah, which is where we left off, because this is easy and I think we can get through it in an hour. So Mazagulo Kos Rishon, this is going back to the Seder. They poured the first cup at the Seder. Mazgu, because they used to mix the wine with water. Beit Shammai omrim mevarech al hayom ve'achar kach mevarech al hayayin, u'Beit Hillel omrim mevarech al hayayin ve'achar kach mevarech al hayom. This is a machloket between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai with respect to every time you make kiddush. We're used to saying borei pri gefen, and then asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. That's called kiddush mevarech al hayom. The blessing on the day is the long blessing. Blessing on the wine is borei pri gefen. So Beit Hillel is the way we do it. Beit Shammai reverses it. They say Mekadesh Shabbat first, and then Borei Pri Gefen. They reverse it. Tandur Rabbanan, the rabbis taught. Dvarim sheben Beit Shammai uBeit Hillel b'seuda. Here are some of the things that divide Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel with respect to meals. Beit Shammai omrim mivarech al hayom ve'achar kach mivarech al hayayin. Beit Shammai says you first say the blessing Mekadesh Shabbat and only then Borei Pri Gefen. Why? Because first of all, what's the reason why you're drinking wine? Because it's Shabbat. So you should first bless the Shabbat, then the wine. Moreover, the other reason is and it's quite possible that Shabbat started already and you still haven't brought the wine. So if you're thinking in terms of time, it makes sense. Shabbat came first. Shabbat started already, and now you're bringing the wine. So you say the blessing on Mekadesh Shabbat, and then on the wine. Okay? So there's two reasons. One is conceptually, why do you have the wine? Oh, it's only because of Shabbat. So we should say Shabbat first. Secondly, it's already Shabbat before you bring the wine, so you should bless the Shabbat first. That's Beit Shammai's argument. Beit Hillel says, "Ubeit Hillel omrim mevarech alayim v'achar kach mevarech alayom mipnei sheyayin gorim lekiddush shete'amer." Beit Hillel says you're right. The reason why we say kiddush is only because it's Shabbat. However, if you didn't have wine, would you be saying kiddush? No. So you should get yayin first. Davar acher, another concept. Birkat hayayin tedira, or birkat hayom ena tadira. Tadir v'sheno tadir kodem. Beit Hillel also says borei pri gefen is more common than mekadesh Shabbat. People drink wine every day. Mekadesh Shabbat only once a week. So therefore, we always say Tadir v'sheno tadir kodem. Whatever is more common comes first. Birkat hayayin comes first. To Hilchita, Kedivrei Beit Hillel. And the law follows Beit Hillel. The Gemara asks, "My davar acher." What is the other reason? In other words, why does Beit Hillel give two reasons? First, Beit Hillel says the reason is because if you didn't have wine, you wouldn't be making kiddush. Then he says, wine is more common than kiddush. So why do you need two reasons? Because you might say because you might say Beit Shammai had two reasons. Maybe they're better. They have two reasons. They said Shabbat already started before you say kiddush. That's reason number two, actually. Reason number one was that the only reason why you're drinking wine is because it's Shabbat. Right? So so he has two reasons, so we also have two reasons, right? Which is the reason that Birkat hayayin, the blessing on wine, is more common. And the halacha follows Beit Hillel. Pshita, isn't that obvious? A divine voice came out and said that the halacha always follows Beit Hillel. So why do you have to tell me that the halacha follows Beit Hillel? Everybody knows the halacha follows Beit Hillel. One possibility is that this was before that pronouncement. Before they heard the heavenly voice that said the halacha follows Beit Hillel, it was a question. Or it could be even after the divine voice came and said that the halacha follows Beit Hillel, but Rabbi Yehoshua holds we don't listen to a bat kol. Rabbi Yehoshua says we still have to decide in every case whether we're going to follow Beit Hillel or we're going to follow Beit Shammai. New Mishnah says they bring before him. It doesn't say what they bring before him, but apparently what they bring before him is vegetables. Okay? This is talking about at the Seder, after you do the Kos Rishon, Kadesh or Hatz Karpas, right? So we're up to the second step. They bring in front of him, as the Rashbam says, Hayirakot. They bring in front of him the vegetables. Mitabel b'hazeret ad shemagila prepare tapat. even though he hasn't yet gotten up to the meal. Parperet tapat means the vegetables that are eaten with the meal. Here it's referring to the maror, actually. So even though we're not up to maror yet, we take a vegetable and we dip it. We do it in vinegar, salt water, depending on your minhag. Okay? The Rashbam brings here that this is talking, why does it mention chazeret? It mentions chazeret, which is maror, because it's talking about a case where the person only has maror. In other words, they don't have any other vegetable. So if you had another vegetable, like celery or whatever, you would use that first. But we're talking about a case where you don't have any other vegetable. You couldn't get it at the store, you forgot, whatever. So all you have is maror to use for karpas. So in that case, mitabel b'chazeret, so you use the chazeret. Now Rashi says that if you actually use it, you have to use charoset for it then, because you're eating the maror. Rashbam says no. It's a machloket rishonim. Okay, so because apparently according to Rashi, anytime you eat maror, you have to use charoset, right? Even if it's not for the mitzvah of maror, it's for karpas.
And you use lettuce to say hadama, right?
Yeah, you could. Yeah. So heviu lefanav matzah v'chazeret v'charoset u'shnei tavshilin. Then they bring in front of him matzah. Chazeret is maror. Charoset, shnei tavshilin, 2 dishes. That's like we have the shank bone. People use the zroa, right, and the betzah as the 2 cooked dishes. V'afal b'shein charoset mitzvah. Even though charoset is not a mitzvah. In other words, there's no special mitzvah. It doesn't say anywhere there's a mitzvah to bring charoset. However, according to, it should say Rabbi Eliezer bir Rabbi Tzadok Omer mitzvah. It is a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to bring charoset to the table. And when they had the Beit HaMikdash, this was the time that they would bring out the Korban Pesach to the table, right after Kiddush, right after the Karpas. Okay? So we'll turn to Amud Bet. Kuf Yudal Amud Bet. Amar Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish says, Zot omeret mitzvot ziruchot kavanah. We can resolve a raging halachic dispute throughout the Shas. What is the halachic dispute throughout the Shas? Do mitzvot require kavanah in order to fulfill them or not? If you do the mitzvah without thinking that you intend to fulfill the mitzvah, do you automatically fulfill it? It's a big debate. He says, you know what? You can prove from here that you have to have kavanah. Why? Because because when the guy eats, now we're talking about a case in the Mishnah where the guy doesn't have any other vegetable but maror, romaine lettuce, let's say, whatever he's using. So what did he have to use for karpas? He had to use lettuce. He had to use the maror. Now wait a second. That means he's fulfilling the mitzvah of maror before he even starts the seder, right after the kiddush. Right? He's saying Borei Pri Adama V'dilma lo ikavan lemaror hilkach ba'ele me'ader lat bulei l'shem maror. What do we see? Why does he have to go back after he does the motzi matzah and do maror again? If mitzvot don't require kavanah, and all we look at is, did this person eat maror or not? We don't care what his kavanah was. We don't care what he was thinking. So then when he ate maror for karpas, he ate the romaine lettuce for karpas, he fulfilled the mitzvah already. So why do you make him go back and do it again? So what can you figure out from this? Obviously, he didn't fulfill the mitzvah already. Why? Because mitzvot tzrichot kavanah. And he didn't have the intent to fulfill maror when he ate it the first time.
If you say Barkat ha'adama as opposed to alachilat maror,
you could still fulfill because you did the action. Like if you pick up your lulav and etrog without saying the bracha, you forgot. Right? So you're not allowed to say the bracha. Why not? You already fulfilled the mitzvah because we say, just in case mitzvot enan tzrichot kavanah. If mitzvot don't require kavanah, so what does that mean? That means you fulfilled the mitzvah already. If mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, then just picking it up by accident doesn't count. But that's why we're machmir on both sides. We're machmir on both sides. So he's saying, I can prove the isal kadatach mitzvah lo baya kavanah lama lachtrei tibulei vatavile hadazimna. So Reish Lakish says, wait a second. You can prove from here, because if mitzvot don't require kavanah, then when he ate the maror at the beginning of the seder, because he didn't have anything else for karpas, he automatically fulfilled the mitzvah. So why does he have to go back later and do it again? It's a good question. So we must conclude mitzvot tzrichot kavanah. So the Gemara says, Mimai, how do you know that? Dilma le'olam mitzvot en tzrichot kavanah. Maybe we'll really say that mitzvot don't require kavanah. V'tika amrat trei tibulei lamali. And your question, why do you need to dip twice? Because you need to have two dippings, not because you didn't fulfill the mitzvah of maror. But what's the whole concept of dipping for karpas? It's that the child will look and see that you're doing something unusual. You dipped the vegetable before the meal, you dipped one during the meal. Why are you doing it twice, right? That's what we say in the Manishtana. Shetei Amim, right? Right? So without the shteva, so you need it not because of maror, you need it because of Shetei Amim, right? Because you need to do it twice, like it says in the Manishtana. And maybe you'll tell me, well, if that's the case, why did the Mishnah choose the example of where you had to use maror for both? Why did it choose that example? Because Reish Lakish will say, oh, the Mishnah chose that example on purpose, because that example shows you that mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, even though you already ate the maror, it didn't count. So he says, no, I'll tell you a different reason. If you ate in other words, what he says is, you might have thought that when do you need two dippings? That's when you have two different vegetables, right? But when you have only one vegetable, you only have chazeret, you only have the maror, lo ba'etzrei tibulei. There you don't need to dip twice. Okay? So the Mishnah is coming to tell you that even when all you have is maror, you still need to dip twice. Ki hechi, in order, dilehevi be hekera letinokot, so that the children will notice that there's something different. Okay? So there you go. Ve'od Tanya, and furthermore we learned in a Braita, achalan demai yatza. If you ate demai is produce, yes.
But do we still decide or conclude that you have to have kavanah? But we do it.
We never. The Shas never definitively concludes. So the Rishonim try to figure out what is the bottom line halacha. The Shulchan Aruch says mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, but we are choshesh in a case where a person didn't have kavanah to do it. In other words, mitzvot tzrichot kavanah, but if a person did the mitzvah without saying the bracha, like if he counts the omer, that's the other famous case. He says what night of the omer it is, without intending to fulfill the mitzvah. But since maybe mitzvot don't require kavanah, we have to be strict. So that's the way the Shulchan Aruch goes.
But now that he brings the question, but
they always deflect it. But they didn't prove not. They just proved that you can't prove it from here, which is what they do at every place in Shas where the question comes up. All they do is say you can't prove it from here. You can't prove it. Okay, so so in the Braita it says achlan demai. If you ate maror that was demai is produce that you bought from an am haaretz. You don't know if it was tithed properly or not, so the rabbis require you to separate an additional maaser from it, just to be sure. Okay? So since it's only rabbinic,
is it teruma or maaser here?
It's maaser because teruma they thought that the am haaretz was going to do,
right?
Because they weren't.
I thought for vegetable you don't take maaser, only.
No, you do.
The ganaka, those are the three.
It's the rabbanan.
The rabbanan. Okay.
Also teruma, it's the rabbanan from vegetables. Achalan belo mitkaven. If he ate it without kavanah, yatza, he fulfills the mitzvah. If he eats and he pauses in between eating the kazayit, he has to eat an olive's worth. If he pauses in between eating a kazayit, then as long as he doesn't pause too much, he still fulfills the mitzvah, which is kadei achilat pras, which is they measure that as being between 2 to 9 minutes. There are all kinds of different measurements of how long that is. Okay, but the point is he has to eat it in one eating. But it doesn't have to be, it could be you take a bite, wait, he doesn't have to stuff it in his mouth all at once, right? That's the point. So, but it says, achalan belo mitkaven. He ate it without kavanah. And is yatza, he fulfilled the mitzvah. So that's a proof that you don't need kavanah. So Tanaihi, it's really a machloket Tanaim. The Tanya says in the Braita, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Afal pishet tebel v'chazeret, mitzvah lahavi lefanav chazeret v'charos v'shnei tavshilin. Because Rabbi Yossi said, even though you dipped with chazeret already, in other words, even if you used maror for your karpas, it's still a mitzvah that you have to bring the karpas again. I mean the maror again, right? So ve'akati mimai, but still, how can you prove from that it's required? In other words, that braita that we just quoted clearly says mitzvot don't require kavanah, because it said if you ate it below kavanah, it's good, right? Below mitkaven, it's still good. So the question is there any source to show that you do need kavanah?
Yeah, what about the children? You need to have kavanah, no? They need to say.
Well, that's for them. But we're saying to fulfill the mitzvah of eating the maror, did you have to think, I'm fulfilling the mitzvah right now? So, we see a source that you don't need to. Is there any source that you do need to? So they bring Rabbi Yossi, who says, even though you ate maror before the meal, it's a mitzvah to bring it again. So that seems like, why is it a mitzvah to bring it again? Because you didn't fulfill it the first time. Because it was b'li kavanah, was without kavanah. So mimai, how do you know? Dilma kasav Rabbi Yossi mitzvot ein tzorechot kavanah. Maybe Rabbi Yossi really holds that you don't need kavanah. V'hai deba inan treiti bulei kechi teheve hekera latinokot. And the only reason why he says you have to bring the maror again is because the children are going to see two dippings. Imken, the Gemara says, my mitzvah. But why then would he say mitzvah? Mitzvah has a specific meaning. It means absolute requirement. Doing an extra shenanigan, so the kids will notice, is not a mitzvah. It's something that is done. It's a rabbinic thing that they wanted to create spectacles for the kids to watch. But we wouldn't call the bringing of the chazeret mitzvah in the same way that in and of itself it's a mitzvah. So the fact that he's saying in and of itself it's a mitzvah means that you did not fulfill the mitzvah of maror the first time, and you need to do it again. So it's a machloket. My shenei tavshilin. What are the two tavshilin that it says you have to bring two cooked dishes? Amar Rav Huna silka v'aruza. You have to bring beets and rice. Now he doesn't mean you have to. It means you could even bring beets and rice. Since Rav Huna used that as an example, Rava specifically would take that for his two dishes. He would get rice and beets. Amar Rav Ashi says, Shema minat de Rav Huna, let the hayish, it should be me Rav Huna, it must be. Right, mid Rav Huna. Shema mina mid Rav Huna. Let the Haish lahad Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. From what Rav Huna says, you could see that nobody is worried about the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. What was the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Because Rabbi Yochanan, Detanias, it says in the Braita, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, Orez min daganhu v'chayavin al chimutzo karet v'adam yotzei bo yidei chovato b'Pesach. That according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, rice is the sixth grain. Therefore, if you cook rice, it becomes chametz. If you make bread out of rice, it could be matzah, or it could be chametz. That would mean we couldn't eat rice today. He says, nobody holds like that. Nobody holds like that. Not only do they not hold like that, they even brought rice as their cooked dish on Pesach, on purpose. You could even bring fish with an egg on it. They used to bring like a filter, piece of fish with an egg on it. That's two dishes, because egg and fish, it's two different things. Right? So they're talking about what's the minimum. Rav Yosef Rav Yosef said you need to have two types of meat. One to remember the Korban Pesach that was eaten at the Seder. One to remember the Korban Chagiga. Remember we learned that they also brought the Korban Chagiga that was eaten at the Seder as well. Two korbanot. Ravina Amar Afilu Garma Ubishula. You could even bring a meaty bone with its soup, with its broth, and that would be considered with the abgusht, with the bone, right? You could bring that with the bone, and that's two tafshilim, right? That's like the broth that they cook the food.
The bone should be tafshil.
It has some meat on it. The bone has some meat on it, plus it has the broth. Right? Well, Rashi actually says chatichat basar, that garma means a piece of meat. Usually garma means a bone, but it means a chunk of, chatichat basar means a piece of meat on a bone, a steak, with the broth. So pshita, that should be obvious. So pshita echad ikashar yirakod mehorech hashar yirakod berpriadam avachil v'atar mevarch al achilat mar v'achil. So it's obvious that in a case where you have two different vegetables, right? So you say borei pri hadaman karpas. Then when you come to achilat maror, what do? You just say al achilat maror. You don't say borei pri hadama again, right? After you did motzi matah, you don't say borei pri hadama again. But What happens when the only thing you have is maror? So you're going to have to use maror twice. First for karpas, then for maror itself. So when do you say the brachot? Mai amar Rav Huna mivarech meikara amaror borei pri adama v'yachil. First, what you do is you say borei pri adama on the maror and you eat it. That's it. You don't say any other brachot. And later, basically what he's saying is you do the exact same thing that we do normally. If you had celery and romaine lettuce, you would say borei pri adama on the celery, and then later when you're doing maror, all you say is ala chilat maror. You don't say borei pri adama. He's saying you do the same thing here, even though you're using romaine lettuce for both. You're using the maror for both. You say borei pri adama the first time, that's it, and then you say ala chilat maror the second time, that's it. So it's the same. No difference according to Rav Huna. Matkifla Rav Chisda says, impossible to do it like that. Why? Because after he already filled his belly from it, he's now going to go back and say the bracha. Ala chilat maror, you already ate it before. It's not a new thing.
Ala chilat maror is bracha?
Yeah, Baruch Atah Hashem, Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvot Levitam Ala chilat maror, yeah. So, Ela Amar Rav Chisda said, Me'ikara mivarech ale borei pri adama ve'ala chilat maror ve'achil. U'levasof achil achilat chasab lo bracha. What he says was a different thing. If the only thing you have is romaine lettuce, and you do kadesh, and now you come to karpas, and you don't have any karpas, you only have maror for karpas. So you have to say borei pri adama and ala chilat maror, and you eat it. And then later, when you eat it again during the seder, you don't say anything. In Surya, they followed Rav Huna. When they had to use only maror for both mitzvot, they did it the normal way. They said borei pri adama in the beginning of the seder. They said ala chilat maror after hamotzi. And Rav Sheshet, Rav Yehoshua, Rav Chisda. Rav Sheshet, the son of Rav Yehoshua, did according to Rav Chisda. Vehilcheta kivatid Rav Chisda. And the halacha is like Rav Chisda, which is in fact what's brought in the Shulchan Aruch. That's how we do it. That's how you would do it. If you had only romaine lettuce, you would say borei pri adama and ala chilat maror the first time that you eat it, and then when you eat it the second time during the seder, you don't say anything. Ravacha, the son of Rava, was very careful to make sure he had two different types of vegetables, so he didn't have to get into this problem. Amar Ravina says, Amar li Rav Misharshia b'rei Rav Natan. Ravina said that Rav Misharshia, the son of Rav Natan, said to me, Hachi Amar Hillel mishmei digmara. This is what Hillel said in the name of the tradition. Now this Hillel is a later Hillel, not the original Hillel. Okay, one that lived not during the times of the Beit HaMikdash said, Lo nichroch inish matzah u'maror b'hadei hadadei v'nechol. A person should not wrap the matzah and maror together and eat them. Why not? Mishum desvira lan, matzah b'zman hazeh deoraita, u'maror d'rabanan, v'atei maror d'rabanan, u'mivatel le matzah deoraita. Because maror today is only rabbinic. Because maror was only to accompany the Korban Pesach. Matzah is deoraita. So what's going to happen? You're going to put maror with the matzah. You're going to eat them together. The maror is going to be an interruption between your mouth and the matzah. And because the maror is only rabbinic, the matzah is deoraita. So you shouldn't do them together. Even according to the opinion that says that two mitzvot don't invalidate one another. In other words, if you consume two mitzvot at the same time, they won't ruin one another. That's only true when they're on the same level. If you have two biblical mitzvot that you're doing at the same time, or you have two rabbinic mitzvot that you're doing at the same time, there we're not concerned about them interfering with one another. But when one is rabbinic and one is biblical, it's no good. Who is the opinion that says mitzvot don't conflict with one another when they are done at the same time? In other words, when you eat two foods that are both a mitzvah, that they don't ruin one another? Hilleli, it's the original Hillel. So this is the later Hillel applying the halacha of the original Hillel. Because the original Hillel said, that's exactly what we know from the Haggadah, right? Hillel would wrap the matzah, maror, and Pesach in one sandwich and eat it. So obviously he holds mitzvot are not mivatel one another. Because if they were mivatel one another, that would prevent him from fulfilling the mitzvah, obviously, correct?
So this is the original.
The original Hillel lived in the times of the Beit HaMikdash. He was the one who used to wrap them together. So obviously from the fact that he wrapped them together, that means that he didn't think that there was any problem with...
Is that the one they were supposed to eat it this way? I mean, I know we had them in Hag, they used to say that.
We do it, the Haggadah, we still do it at the end.
Like this, as opposed to straight?
Oh, and I never heard that. Never heard that, but...
You do what?
We go from the back.
From the back, I never heard that.
Why they
never heard that. Yeah, so, okay, so where does he get that from? Al matzot morim yochelu. It says you should eat the Pesach on matan maror. It's one sandwich. So obviously he holds that even though you're consuming more than one thing at a time, it's okay. They don't interfere. Why? They're all biblically required. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, cholkin alav chavirav. It might be chalukin alav chavirav al Hillel. That Hillel's associates disagreed with him. Tetanya, as it says in the Braita, because the Braita said you might think that one should combine them together and eat them like the way that Hillel does. Talmud lomar al matzot u'morim yocheluhu. That therefore the Torah tells you on matzot and morim you should eat it. Afilu ze b'fnei atzmo v'ze b'fnei atzmo. Even if you eat each one separately, it's okay. So it's a little bit of a problem, because what do you mean even if? Even if means that's good enough, but you can also do it separately. Right? So the Gemara is going to ask, Ravashi says, if the Chachamim in the times of Hillel were saying that Hillel was wrong and Hillel's way wasn't good, why are they saying you can even do it one at a time? They should say you can do it one at a time, not even. Doesn't mean even. Rather, what he says is, this is what the Braita is supposed to say. It's not that they said that Hillel wasn't fulfilling the mitzvah. They were saying you might think that you could only fulfill the mitzvah the way that Hillel did. Only by combining them. Therefore, Talmud lomar al matzot u'morim yocheluhu afilu zeh b'fnei atzmo v'zeh b'fnei atzmo. That therefore it says on matzot and morim it can be eaten, even if they're one at a time, it's good enough. So where the difference wasn't that they thought Hillel was wrong, they just didn't think Hillel was necessary. You don't have to do it that way. You could also do them one at a time. Now that we don't know what the halacha is, whether it's according to the rabbis who say do it one at a time, or it's according to Hillel, what do we do? So it's what we do today. First we say the blessing on matzah, we eat it. Then we say the blessing on maror, and we eat it. And then we eat the matzah and the maror together as a sandwich to remember Hillel. That's exactly what we do at the Seder. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Oshaya. Rabbi Elazar said that Rabbi Oshaya said, this is a general halacha. Anytime you dip a food, a vegetable, or fruit into liquid, you're supposed to wash your hands. Netilat yadayim first, because your hands will make the liquid tameh. No, your hands will make the liquid tameh. The liquid will make the food tameh. Amar Rav Papa says, Shema mina. You can learn from this. Hay chasa, the maror of Pesach tzarich lishaku'ei b'charoset. You have to dip it very deeply into the charoset. You have to dip it very, all the way, submerging it into the charoset. How so? Mishum kappa. Because of kappa. What is kappa? This is some kind of a...
We wash after we dip.
When?
For the moment when you say rikat ha'adama, your celery in the salt water or whatever, then we wash.
Really? No, it's before. Karpas, kadesh urchat. Karpas, no, before. Right? So what's the reason why you have to dip it in? Because of kappa. So Rashbam says that's eres shahazeret yishbo eres kederech habetzalim, that there's some kind of a poison in the charoset, sharp items have some kind of a thing in it that you have to neutralize by dipping it in the charoset. And others say it's some kind of a worm that's in there that you want to get it out, whatever. Because if you say that you don't have to submerge the vegetable all the way into the charoset, so then nitilat yadayim lamali, why do you have to wash your hands? Halo naga. You're not going to touch the charoset. You're holding the maror here. You dip it in just one end. You don't have to submerge it in, so you're not going to touch the liquid. So why should you have to wash your hands? So v'dil maleolam emalach lo tzarich lishakwai. Really, maybe you're wrong. Maybe you don't have to dip it all the way in. The only thing is, and really you don't have to dip it all the way. Because the scent of the charoset is enough to neutralize whatever's bad about the maror. You don't have to dip it all the way in. Lama li netilat yadayim. So why do you have to wash your hands if you're not going to actually touch the charoset because you can hold it from afar? Because dilma mishak olei. Because there's a chance you might. In other words, some people like the charoset, they dipped it in anyway more than you have to. So you might do it more. You might be overzealous and touch the liquid. That's why. So it's not teaching you that you have to dip it in all the way, submerge it all the way. It's telling you that you might. And since you might, you should wash your hands. Okay, Papa says, you shouldn't keep the maror submerged in the charoset for too long. Dilma agav haliyeh ditvalin mivatel lemarore. Because maybe as a result of the pungentness of the spices in the charoset, you're going to lose the flavor of the maror. Uba enan tam maror veleka. And then you're going to not have the flavor of maror anymore. It's supposed to taste like bitter. Ad berei Rav Chisda Ravna Ukva Vidrash. One time Rav Chisda was walking along with Ravna Ukva, and he was telling him over a halacha. Natal yadav betibul rishon. When a person washes their hands with the first dipping, notel yadav betibul sheni, they still have to wash their hands with the second dipping. Now at first, when the rabbis told this to Rav Papa, they said that this statement of Rav Chisda was said in general. In other words, if they bring you one vegetable with dip, you should do netilat yadayim the first time and dip it. Then they bring you another vegetable with dip, you should wash again. That's what he meant. Itmar. Because if you're telling me he's talking about Pesach, he washed his hands already for karpas. Why should he have to wash his hands again later?
Why?
Right? So why for the second time? So in a normal case, we understand. Because in a normal case, they bring you one vegetable or fruit with a dip. You dip, you didn't know they're going to bring you another one. So you forgot about the hands after the first time. But Pesach, you know you're going to be eating more vegetable. You're going to dip again later. So you have in mind from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a part. Rav Papa said to them, it was definitely said about Pesach, Rav Papa says. Why? Because if we're talking about a regular case, why would you have two dippings anyway? How frequent is it for them to bring you two dippings? Why is he talking about two dippings? That's only on Pesach. So therefore we must say that the statement that you need to dip for both times, if a vegetable is brought to you twice, is talking about Pesach. But why do you need to wash twice? Why isn't the first time enough? Amre, they said, the answer is that since you have such a long time between the nitilat yadayim of karpas and what you're going to have, and the hamotzi of motzi matzah, right? You're going to forget by then about the washing that you did before. Because there's such a long reading of Magid and the beginning of the Hallel, you're not going to remember. And because you're not going to remember, you're going to touch something and make your hands tameh all over again. That's the concern. And that's why, or you're going to touch a part of your body that you're not supposed to, or whatever it is. And as a result, the original washing will be negated. So that's why you need another washing. Now the way that we do that is we don't actually wash for the maror, we wash for the hamotzi. And then we go right into the maror. But that's what they mean, the same idea. Why doesn't the washing of the maror count for motzi matzah? The answer is because there's too much going on in between. Amar Rava says, Bala matzah yatza. If a person swallowed matzah without chewing it, he swallowed it right down, he didn't taste anything. He just swallowed it. Yatza. But bala maror lo yatza. But maror is not good. Why? Because maror is supposed to be bitter. You didn't taste it. Bala matzah maror yatza yedei matzah yatza yedei maror lo yatza. If you swallow them simultaneously, you'll fulfill the mitzvah of matzah, but not maror. Because here, since you swallowed it without chewing it, the maror won't ruin the matzah because you didn't chew it. Right? Like before we said, if you eat them together, it could be a problem. Here he's saying it's not going to be a problem because you're not going to taste it.
In the charoset, maror, say al-achilat maror, they say if it's bitter, you want to sweeten it up.
A little bit. To neutralize some of the bad taste.
That's still okay. I mean, if you have to.
As long as you can still taste some, yeah. So that's why it says don't leave it in there for a really long time. It loses its taste completely. Karachan basiv, if you wrapped it in a leaf and swallowed it together, then you're not even eating the matzah anymore because you wrapped that in a leaf and you swallowed it. So you have to at least eat it. You might not have to taste matzah, but you have to eat it normally. Maror you have to also taste. Amar Rav Shimi bar Ashi. Rav Shimi bar Ashi says, the proper way to do the seder is each person has his own matzah, each person has his own maror, each person has his own charoset. Little container. But when they remove the table, when they say pick up, we remove the seder plate, we don't remove the table. But when they remove the seder plate or the table, they only remove it in front of the person who's saying the Haggadah, the leader of the seder. So the kids will ask, what's going on? Why are we stopping?
You covered it actually.
Rav Huna Amar Omer Kulu Nami Lefnei Shomer Haggadah. Rav Huna says you don't need to have a separate matzah in front of every person, separate maror in front of every person, separate charoset in front of every person. All those things only have to be in front of the leader. That's the way we do it usually. Ve'ilcheta ki Rav Huna, the law follows Rav Huna. Lama okrinet shulchan. Why did they used to take away the shulchan? They used to do it. They used to take away the shulchan in the midst of the seder when they were about to get up to the. It's going to tell us more details about this a little bit later on. But after the kaddish and the karpas, it says you're supposed to take the seder plate away. They used to take the table away. Why? Because the kids would be saying, "Hey, we said kiddush, we didn't have a dinner. Where's dinner? Why are you taking the table away?" Taking the table away meant there's no dinner. The kids would be saying, "What's going on here?" So the answer is Amrei Devei Rabbi Yanai Kedeshi Akiru Tinokot. So the children will notice. Vishalu, and they'll ask a question. Abaye Havayativ Kamei de Rabbah. Abaye was once sitting in front of Rabbah. Chazad Madle Takam Kamei. He saw them taking the table away. Amar Lahu, he said to them, Adain Lo Ka'achlina Atu Kame Akre Takam Mikaman. He said, we haven't eaten yet. Why are you taking the table away? Abaye said that. He didn't know this idea, so he asked them, why are you taking the table away? So, yeah, because in those days they had small tables. They would lie on a couch, and they had a little table next to the couch, right? When they would eat, that's the reclining. They would lie on the couch, and they had a little table. So they would take the table away. That meant the dinner was over. It was like a TV dinner table that they used to have a long time ago, like in the in the 70s. They used to have those things. So anyway, he says. So he said to him, so he asked, why are you taking the table away? Amar Lahu. Amar Le, he said, Amar Le Rabbah said to him, Pitarten milomar, Pitartan, you exempted us, milomar manishtana. We don't have to say the manishtana now. Why not? Because you already asked the question. Why is this different? What are you doing? We say the manishtana when the kids don't ask, so that the kids will be stimulated to pay attention to what's going on. But if somebody already asked what's going on here, you don't need to. We'll go a little bit further. Amar Shmuel says lechem oni. Lechem she'onin alav divarim. What does it mean lechem oni? Why is it called lechem oni? Lechem oni means the bread of affliction, but it also means she'onim, bread that we say a lot of things over it. Right? Because we say the Haggadah with the bread there. Tani Namiachi, we also learned in a Braita, Lechem oni, lechem she'onin alav divarim harbe. Right? This is bread, oni, that we speak of over it. We say many things over this bread. Davar acher, another possibility, lechem oni, ani. It's the bread of a poor person. Ketiv. It's really ani ketiv. Right? It's not oni, it's ani ketiv, a poor person's bread. Ma ani shedarko beprusa. Afkan beprusa. Just like an ani, he doesn't have a complete loaf of bread. He has only a broken piece of matzah, piece of bread. So we, on Pesach, we break the matzah and we eat a prusa. We eat the broken loaf. Davar acher, another possibility, madarko shelani, humasik vishto ofe. Afkan nami humasik vishto ofe. Just like a poor person, he has to heat the oven and his wife does the baking. In other words, they have to split up the labor. They don't have a servant to help them. They don't have. They're always. They're very stressed out. They have to divide the labor between them. So too, we do the same thing with matzah. Why? We have one guy lighting the oven, the other person putting in the bread, because we don't want it to become chametz. We need a lot of hands to make sure it doesn't become chametz. So just like the poor person has to, it takes a team effort to make bread for the poor person and his wife. He lights the fire, she puts in the bread. We do the same thing. If you've ever been to the matzah factory, they got one guy doing this, one guy doing this. It's a team effort because they have to do it so quickly so that the matzah will not become chametz. And there's a long Tosafot on the side that actually discusses the issue of how to properly make hamotzi on Pesach. Whether to, when we break the matzah, which one to say the hamotzi on, which one to say the alachilat matzah on. It's a whole complicated discussion in the Rishonim.